So my name's Tara Preston. If we haven't had a chance to meet, I know that there are some of you who are new in this space. So if you're catching this live, come say hello. Let me know where you're watching from and who you are so that I can say hello. So welcome. I wanted to pop in today to speak about this idea of cycle syncing. And I'm kind of seeing this term cycle syncing in a few different places in the internet land. And it's kind of struck me a little bit as odd, a little bit, because it's something that I've been doing for a long time, and it's something that I've been supporting women with for a long time. And it's definitely something that I know the power of. It's something that I do in my life and my business, and that I have been doing in my life and my business for a long time. And it makes such a difference in terms of how we get to manage our energy, build our energy, in terms of how we get to connect to ourselves and how we get to lead our lives from, I think, a different level of soul and flow that actually really supports our natural evolution and our natural unfolding. So what is cycle syncing? And I'm going to share a little bit about that and ways that you can start to work with it in your own life. And I was really, feeling into how I wanted to, the strand of the transmission that I wanted to offer today, right? And as I was feeling into that, I was like, there's 3 ways that you can cycle sync. And a cycle syncing is essentially connecting to your own inner rhythms, your own feminine cycle. I see someone's here. Hello. I don't know if I'll see your comment, but welcome. Right, is connecting to our own natural ebb and flow, our own natural cycles. And there's a few ways that we can harmonize with that. And this works for anyone. And this particularly works for us as women, given that we have a natural internal cycle, given that we have a low point in that cycle during our bleed time, which typically in our society, right, and most likely you, being raised in our Western society, maybe, there's a disconnect to that. And so the more that we can actually honor those intrinsic natural cycles that exist within us, and there's so much medicine in that, we can actually design our lives and our business and our families around that internal cycle in a way that really works for us, for our energy, for our power, for our creation cycle, and for our self-connection and magnetism. So the reason that this also becomes important is because we also live in a society that's very much, go do. It's very linear thinking. And it's easy to get caught up in the linear way of being. And I see this all the time. And at various points in my journey, I've been doing this work for a long time. I haven't really fully introduced myself, but I'm the founder of the Akashic Women's School, and I am a guide for leaders of the new paradigm, particularly those leaders who are really called to embody their feminine power and be way showers during these times of awakening. And I've been, doing this work for well over a decade. And there have been times where, I've disconnected from my own internal cycles, but it's been such a medicine for me that I always know when I come back to it, there's so much power there. And often when I'm guiding women through, soul level transformation or initiations, like a real rebirth, right? We're still using the connection to her natural feminine cycle as a way to connect in quite deeply, honor her feminine energetic system, and recalibrate during those sacred pauses, during the down and inward point in her cycle. And so, essentially though, whether you bleed or not, you still have these internal cycles. But the more that we can stay connected and the more we can harness it and the more we can work with it, and some of you, I'm sure, just the nature of where we're at on our own journey in terms of where we're at in our own spiral, I'm sure work with this medicine. And if you do, please share. I would love to hear. So the reason that this becomes so important, and something that I've found, working with women and at various points in my own journey too, is that when we don't honor the sacred pause, when we really don't allow ourselves to actually use our sacred bleed time for what it is, we just end up kind of like running over. We just kind of push and walk right over the deeper invitation to sink into listening, connection, reflection, recalibration, and an invitation to actually root more fully into the truth of who we are. So our sacred pause, that bleed time, is actually an invitation to every cycle, as best as we can, come into that space of deep recalibration and connection, because when we do, we get to ebb and flow and rebirth every single month, receiving new clarity, new alignment, next steps. But we're drawing it from a very deep place within us, and essentially recalibrating our path right into alignment with the highest version of the woman that we're called to be in this lifetime. So there's many different reasons why cycle syncing is so powerful. It's so powerful. So I wanted to share just a couple of ways that I work with my cycle and how I use it. And I've used it a long time in my own business for my own natural feminine evolution to manage my energy and really to build sustainable energy, right? In order to have sustainability, we have to be able to operate in a cyclical nature, just like nature, right? We have to be able to give ourselves some sense of renewal, some sense of, in the continuum of the cycle, there's got to be a sacred pause. There's got to be something that completes the cycle. There's got to be something that in that space of completion, we're starting to understand where the renewal is, so that we can take that out into the next creation cycle. There's so much power there. And I know for myself, when I honor that, right, it allows me to actually build energy and to maintain my energy. And I always know, no matter how much I might be doing throughout the cycle, that there will always be that place to rest and recalibrate when I honor my bleed, when I honor that sacred time. But as I mentioned at the top of the call, there's 3 ways that we can really learn to cycle sync. And this applies, whether you have your bleed, your menstrual cycle, or not. Maybe you're in menopause, right? But you still have an internal cycle. So there's 3 different ways. And so one of them would be, working with the lunar phases of the moon, right? That can be really powerful. And if we start to look and examine the moon, I think that breaks down even just the cyclical nature of our feminine cycle really, really beautifully. So oftentimes for me, that inward sacred pause would be during the new moon, right? It's like there's just that little sliver of a moon in the sky. It's a very quiet inward time of reflection. There is an invitation to like go within, just like the tidal wave of the ocean pulls in, right? There's an invitation to actually come within and to rest. And the new moon, and same with the bleed time, is there's a very thin veil between ourselves, the physical world, and our essence. So it's a really beautiful time to sink in, to listen, to get clarity on where we're going, and to also release, the clarity on what are we letting go of at this stage of the cycle, right? But also, who are we being called to be? What are we being called to create? What are the action steps that we want to bring forward? What is going to carry this vision for the next cycle forward, right? And it's in that space that we get to recalibrate. There's so many times where I have women who have come to me and they have long to-do lists. I've got so much to do, like I don't even know where to start. Well, what often happens too is if we don't honor the sacred pause, if we override cyclical living, we actually don't have the awareness, the space, or the clarity to even identify what is what actually needs to come forward with us, right? We may have outgrown some of the things on the list. Some of them we don't even need to do, like it doesn't even apply to where we're at in our life anymore. Some of them we might actually just need to like reassess given on the clarity that we have, right, in the new cycle, right? Because there can be little course corrects. And so all of a sudden the things on the to-do list, they're not relevant anymore. But it's in those spaces of deepening into the pause, right, where we can honor our energy, where we can honor our clarity, where we can honor that connection to self, and where we can really, really listen. So it allows us to navigate our lives forward from a much more rooted, connected, even expanded and vibrant place. The sustainable energy is huge. So working with the moon cycles is one way. And so same with the new moon now, or if for example, that would be connected to bleed time, it's the inward time, the sacred pause. We're actually looking at identifying. So for me, I'd be like, okay, this is the rest, the recalibration. What am I letting go of? And then what am I desiring to create this cycle? Like where am I being pulled? What just feels so good in my energy? I'm not taking action yet, right? But I might start to get myself organized. I might start to create a couple to-do lists. I might start to jot some things down in my calendar. I'm starting to get organized so that when my energy starts to pull up in the cycle, I know exactly what I want to implement during the peak time when I have the most energy, which would kind of be like the waxing moon and then the full moon. And it's true, during those 2 weeks, that kind of like, or the 2 weeks after my bleed, I've got the most energy. And I've got a lot of energy because I actually took a rest. And then I'm able to bring all of that to the creations that I want to birth, the action steps I need to take, the to-dos that really apply, right? And oftentimes too, in terms of being a mama, it's like a lot of my daughter's appointments would get scheduled then, where I can. It would be scheduled around that peak energy time. And so I would ride that wave, and I very often do this through the same way in my business, a lot of my marketing too. You'll see me, I'm out more, right, during like the peak time in my energy cycle. So a lot more marketing, a lot more Facebook Lives, a lot more energy going to fuel some of the creations that I know that I wanted to bring through this cycle. Now, as the cycle starts to wane, which it will, right, as we move from the new moon, from the full moon into the waxing moon, this is where our energy starts to recede a little bit too, and where we can start to wrap things up and bring things to completion. And it's oftentimes I will just have a natural sense, and we really start to like build a connection and awareness to the different energies present. But for me, I will want to wrap things up. I'll probably want to like close the door to different programs. I'll be like organizing papers and filing receipts, and like I am starting to wrap things up, bringing the cycle to a close. I might look at like, are there any conversations I need to have? Is anything bothering me, like PMS, right? Is anything like really grating on me? Like what is not working in my life? Right? And I might look at that. I might do some Akashic clearing because I work with the Akashic records, or it might just be a conversation. I just need to get something off my chest, right? Closure. We're creating space for the next cycle. And that way, those things don't get drudged forward. We don't carry it forward so that it becomes weighted. Right? And this way, when we really start to bring some beautiful attention and intention to closing out the cycle, there's a lightness that starts to appear as well. And so again, as I start to come back into that space of the new moon, this is the rest time. This is self-connection. This is, if you are bleeding, if you still have your menstrual cycle, like that is that time of like womb cleansing. It's like real rest. It's like the 3 days of really resting, nourishing, listening, pausing, dreaming, right? Reflecting, like really gathering up the energy for what it is that we're going to flow and ground and birth the next cycle. And so that is one way that we can start to cycle sync and through our businesses, through our lives. And absolutely this works as a mama, and in a beautiful way where we can actually rest, recalibrate, and start to lead in the home from a very recalibrated, self-sourced place of leadership, a very radiant, self-sourced place of leadership. It offers a lot of clarity and a lot of recalibration. And at first it can feel really sticky if we're not used to taking that time for ourselves. So even an afternoon or a day, right? And it's just, where can we slow down? Where can we self-nurture? Where can we integrate? Where can we tune in and dream? It's a game changer. So there's the 3 ways that I had mentioned. And so the one way is by working with our bleed. The other way is by working just with the lunar cycles, just starting to attune to the different phases of the moon and how that can support your cyclical flow. It's really beautiful, so powerful. And then the third way would be working with the seasons of the year. And that is more of a broad kind of framework for flowing in terms of staying connected to our feminine cycles and the naturalness of our evolutionary path as women. And this is absolutely how I work with women when they are moving through a life initiation, or they're really feeling called to step into more of their soulful purpose and that higher calling. There's a real shed of the old life, And so we journey through the season, the wheel of the year and the seasons. But truly on a broader spectrum, even when we honor those cycles, it really allows for sustainable business growth and sustainable energy. So for me here in the Western Hemisphere, the winter time, right, the winter solstice, and we get quite cold and quite dark, is a real time for slowing down and going within. And that's very different than what most of the world is doing, during December 21. But there's a real pull within, a real recalibration, a real dreaming, a real listening. Where am I being called? What ready to birth through me? What wants to birth through me through the next cycle of the wheel of the year, right? And then, as we start to kind of feel those energies bubble up towards spring, I'm starting to move forward with some of the projects that really light me up, that I know that I'm going to have the fuel and that like spring energy to really bring those creations forward. And that is how we can sync up for cyclical living. It's so beautiful and so powerful, and it can take several cycles to really start to see the shifts and the benefit of it. You would see it in the first cycle for sure, but one thing I know is that the more that I honor the sacred pause and the more that I really utilize it with deep listening and rest, the more I start to really see those shifts and the way that I flow through the next cycle and how they start to really build on each other. Right? They really start to build on each other, and especially helpful when I'm moving through change or transition. But as I stay the course with that, there's always an anchor. There's always an invitation to come back into the truth of who I am. And when I recalibrate in that space, I'm getting the course correction, and it continues to unfold in a really beautiful, sustainable, powerful, self-sourced, and connected way. So let me know what your takeaways were. Let me know if you have questions, if I can fill in any gaps to what I said here. And I'm going to let you know as well that right now I keep saying this, but the landing page is coming for the brand new Evolutionary Mama 10-week family matrix recalibration journey. It's a 10-week Akashic family matrix recalibration journey. And this is for the conscious mama leader who knows she's here to birth the new earth, who knows she's on the edge of her evolution and who feels a little bit probably like weighted, a little bit entangled in some of the family matrix dynamics and maybe some of the mother wound, like the mother lineage relationship dynamics as well, but who is also ready to drop more fully into her womb wisdom, her womb leadership, her embodied feminine power, right? And to work in this very cyclical way as you bring forward the new vision that you are being called to anchor in this new paradigm during these new times. It's very deep, it's very powerful. We meet for the 10 weeks, and every time we're clearing and untangling. This is a group container where you work with your own Akashic record as guided by me. And we travel through all kinds of different relationship dynamics, creating space for more of your power, for more of your expression, for more of your prosperity. So if this speaks to you, please reach out. I might swing back later and drop the URL below. We're like this close to being done the landing page, and then I'm going to swing back around. I'm only taking 10 women because I love group containers that are really intimate. So again, if this speaks to you, just let me know. And otherwise, I shall see you all in the Facebook group, and I shall talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.